Toxoplasmosis is the name of the disease, if you would. That's the name of the disease, toxoplasmosis, leishmaniasis, giardiasis. So during lab practical exam, if I ask you what is the name of the disease, then you have to write down toxoplasmosis, giardiasis, except Plasmodium. The name of the disease for Plasmodium is malaria, right? For Trichomonas vaginalis, it's trichomoniasis. I hope I'm making some sense. Leishmaniasis, leishmaniasis. Then you have two different leishmania, visceral leishmaniasis and cutaneous leishmaniasis. So I said a few things, but and then if I ask you for signs and symptoms, we'll go over those in the when I go over this slides. The signs and symptoms for this one, for example, would be flu-like symptoms, like a flu, or it would be miscarriage or hydrocephalic brain. These are the things that I will talk about it here in a minute. Okay, am I making some sense? So signs and symptoms are different than the name of the disease. Signs and symptoms of malaria would be chills, fever, headache. We had one afternoon lab, he said diarrhea. Yeah, you know, the Plasmodium, but it's not listed in your textbook. It's not a common thing. So remember, you cannot write down anything you want during exam. Even though for malaria, oh, Amir, I found the website says diarrhea is one. Yeah, it could be, but it's not commonly known, so I want you to write down the answers that is emphasized in this class. I hope I'm making some sense. So refer to your notes, study your notes. Let's go. Discovery of it quickly, since this was the topic of my dissertation in Tennessee. I worked with Toxoplasma gondii. Maybe you should know a little bit more history, a little bit more about it than ordinary people who take zoology in other institutions. Toxo, it means arc, plasma, it means form. And then first discovered by Nicole and Mansous. Nicole was from England and Mansous, I believe, was from Germany, 1908, right at the turn of the century. And while they were researching Leishmania, they were looking for Leishmania and trying to find out what is Leishmania, and they stumbled on Toxoplasma gondii. Okay, so they found it in these organisms. Pterodactylus gondii, it's a lab rabbit, typically only causes harm in immunocompromised patients, in AIDS patients. We already discussed a few of them in here. Isosbora, Imeria. You know, it can be devastating to AIDS patients. And then parasitizes nearly all mammals and many birds. Okay, so it's not host specific usually, and you will see that for the cats, you will see what I'm talking about. And of course, marsupials and wallabies, it kills them. If they become infected with it, it kills marsupials and wallabies. That's why nowadays, if you go to cages in a zoo, you will see that the cages of the wild cats, any kind of cat, and cages of wild bees and wallabies and kangaroos are not next to each other. At one zoo, there was an incident, all of the wallabies and marsupials died. The kangaroos, they died because their cage was next to the wildcats. And the feces from the Toxoplasma gondii feces got into the cage, and of course, it was just an accident, and they died. Okay, so that's what now you go to zoos, and then you will see them, they are at different, write it down in an answer later. And then you see them that they are separate from each other. They're not in close vicinity. Okay, that's the name of the organism. Pterodactylus, the rodent name, Tunisian rodent is a common name for it. This is the life cycle of Toxoplasma gondii. The slide has been flipped, so I hope you're with me. Okay, so cat and domestic cat, wild cat, any kind of cat is the definitive host. And what I mean by definitive host, it means where the sexual reproduction takes place. Intermediate hosts are other animals where asexual reproduction takes place. Okay, that's where intermediate host means. So in cat, in the intestine of cat, microgametes get together. You already know about microgametes. We talked about them. The microgamete and macrogamete get together, and they go under fertilization, and they form the oocyst. The cat feces, in the cat feces, you'll find the oocyst, and the oocyst has to stay in environment between 1 to 4 days, becomes sporulated, and we already talked about what sporulation means, okay, in the oocyst. So in case of Toxoplasma gondii, you would have 8 sporozoites inside of a mature oocyst. And then what happens, rodents will eat that accidentally. It's just not rodents go purposely try to find cat feces and eat it. They accidentally eat cat feces, they come across it. And what happens, they have Toxoplasma gondii. Now, a healthy cat that does not have Toxoplasma gondii will eat that mice or the bird. Okay, they catch birds, mice, cats, and then the healthy cat become infected. Okay, in biology there is a common thing they say. The prey always gets some kind of parasite or bacteria that slows them down so the predator can eat them. And that's the case with Toxoplasma gondii. There are a few studies that suggests when mice and birds become infected with Toxoplasma gondii, they become slow. So when they become slow, cats can eat them. So the cycle of the parasites keeps going. Is that right? If the cat does not eat any rodents, that's the dead end. Does not infect rodents and does not eat rodents, that's dead end for the parasite. We talked about this a little bit before, right? Parasitism, commensalism, mutualism. So that's the way nature is dealing with it. So the life cycle of the parasite goes on. Also, insects or other organisms, they can grab the oocyst from the feces on their legs. That's what I mean, on the legs, and they sit on the food of farm animals or human. And farm animals and human become infected with the food that they're eating. So farm animals become infected, and then we eat farm animals, and I'll go over that, and we human become infected also. So we human can become infected somewhere along the line by eating farm animals products, and I will go over that in a minute. And then also by ingesting cat oocyst, okay, accidentally. Not necessarily we go and seek cat feces, but accidentally. Okay, here is the oocyst. This is all cat feces. This is all cat feces. This is the oocyst of Toxoplasma gondii, right there. Just that one in that slide. Okay? So, when a human or an animal or a cat, any organism, I said it in my introductory slides, a lot of mammals, most mammals and birds, when they ingest this, there are different routes of infection. I will talk about that, but this is one of them. When they ingest this, then this goes inside of the intestine, and as you learn, they go under the sporozoites inside, undergo excisement, right? And they go wacko. They multiply, and multiply, and multiply, and multiply. When here they are, a few unsporulated oocysts, and this is sporulated oocyst. You can see the sporozoites. This is the one that if you and I ingest, or any animal ingest, will not become infected. That's why they recommend you should change the litter box of the cat between 1 to 4 days, less than 24 hours. Not between 1 to 4 days, less than 24 hours. It takes about 1 to 4 days for these oocysts become like this. And when they become like this, Houston, we got a problem, right? They can infect their host. When they are like this, the oocysts, they do not infect their host. So you got to change the litter box. If you have a cat inside the house, you got to change the litter box less than 24 hours. It takes about 24 to 4 days to become this. And this can stay in the environment. Oh, there are different research, about 6 months or so. Still can infect human. This Not after 4 days, this vanishes, disappears. No, they're still in the garden. They're still in the environment, and they can infect their host. Okay, let's go. So we ingest this, right? It goes to the intestine of cat, human, bird, and they go whack. They multiply and multiply. This is called, I should have labeled this right here. This is called tachyzoids. Tachy, it means rapid, fast. So they are multiplying very rapidly after excision, right? After excision, they are multiplying very rapidly inside of the body, all over the body. It can happen all over. It's just not intestine. They migrate, they go to the muscles, they go to the brain, they go all over and multiply and multiply and multiply and multiply. So that fast, rapid stage of multiplication, we call it tachyzoids. Okay? And then the host immune system kicks in, slow them down. Okay? The host immune system slow them down. They cannot be like this. If they are like that, they will kill their host. Wallabies, marsupials. We talked about that, right? So the host immune system kicks in and slow them down, and they form a cyst. That cyst is called a bradyzoid cyst. This is from brain of a mouse. We took this picture from brain of a mouse. Okay, so they slow down. Inside of this cyst, there are hundreds, thousands of Toxoplasma gondii. These Toxoplasma gondii. That, Mansus and Nicole, they saw these on a microscope in 1908. Toxo, means arc. Plasma, form, shape. That's what they call it, Toxoplasma. Gondii was from the rodent they found it in. That's why they got the name Toxoplasma gondii. Okay, so they form a cyst. The cyst is called bradyzoid cyst. And they are in the mouse, in the brain. Of course, this picture was taken from the brain of a mouse. I'm going to make you some sense. We fed, I did, you're looking at one. I fed mice with Toxoplasma gondii. I injected them, I'm sorry, I didn't feed them. I injected in the belly, and then later on I went and got the brain out and gave them to the lab technicians, the stain and so on and so forth. I took the slides and I stained them myself. But anyway. So they are right here and they are in the body. There is one study done nowadays. Some of you guys will go away and you send me emails. I mean, look at this paper. It says that dementia, you all know what dementia is, the loss of memory, happens with people who have Toxoplasma gondii. Okay, interesting. So throughout my life, I've seen a few. I mean, still Toxoplasma gondii is being researched, even though we think we know everything about it. No, that's not true. We still, half of us in this room have it, right? I talked about it. Not necessarily. The population has to be bigger. Based on several studies they have done, half of the United States have Toxoplasma gondii. So maybe dementia is part of it. My advisor in Tennessee, anytime she forgot something or she said, well, she didn't know about that paper. This is a recent paper. She said, Toxoplasma gondii are breaking in my brain. So what happens? Another thing that is interesting, what happens? These bradyzoids constantly inside of their host, they break and become tachyzoids. Our immune system slow them down, become bradyzoids. They break, become tachyzoids. They become bradyzoids constantly. That's what happens with people who have Toxoplasma gondii and they don't even know it. So what would happen the first time you ingest the oocyst, right? And then they go under excision, they go throughout your body. The person has signs and symptoms of a flu. You have runny nose, you start sneezing, it feels like you have a flu. And how many times you have a flu and you go to a doctor checking for Toxoplasma gondii? 0. They think you're nuts. You have a flu, you sleep 5, 6 days, 7 days, you get rid of it, you're done. It is possible you had Toxoplasma gondii. And then of course you'll have it for the rest of your life. There is no medication. There's nothing to get rid of it. Okay, I hope I'm making some sense so far. So far, so good. Okay, here is again, that's another bradyzoid, and inside of it there are some Toxoplasma gondii, right? That's another bradyzoid. Here is the life cycle. One more time, let's revisit the life cycle. Okay, so here's a cat, any kind of cat, lions, tigers, cheetahs, whatever cat you have. Domestic, the whole feline family. Okay, so they release the oocyst, unsporulated oocyst, not dangerous. However, that oocyst stays in the environment between 1 to 4 days, becomes sporulated. You already know that. And then that sporulated oocyst is ingested by farm animals or human. Then, of course, becomes tachyzoids. The host immune system can slow it down, become bradyzoids. Slow down the multiplication of tachyzoids. Okay? And then in case of human, after human has the flu-like symptoms, then if a woman is pregnant, that's the next thing we are going to tackle here. I hope you learn these things. If a woman is pregnant and she never had Toxoplasma gondii before, there is a 50% possibility that she can miscarry that baby, or the baby is going to be born mentally retarded, or the baby will have hydrocephalic brain. I hope I'm making some sense. Okay, but that's the case when a woman did not have it before. When I was in vet school, working on this in Tennessee, I'm making up some stories too, so you understand it better. So you understand it. During Christmas break, they had the vet students. They had about a month off, a month and a half, somewhere there after the finals and everything, about a month off. They came to me and said, Amir, can I have some live Toxoplasma? I had access to it in the lab. Can I have some live Toxoplasma gondii? So I drink it in a vial, right? I drink it, and then I don't have to worry about later on in life if I become pregnant. I do not have to worry about it. This, I have it now. I have 1 month off, so I can come down with the flu-like symptoms, and I get better, and I move on with my life. Number one, I said no. Number two, it's not ethical. Number three, you don't know what life is going to bring you, right? You might come down with HIV. Oh no, I have safe sex. No, don't worry about that. You might get a blood transfusion. Something happens in life. You might get cancer, and then they have to treat you to suppress your immune system with drugs. And now you have Toxoplasma gondii. You have to take a separate drug for your Toxoplasma gondii. No. The answer is no. Am I making some sense? We do not have vaccine for this organism. We do not have vaccine for it. We do not have a drug for it that you completely get rid of it. I hope I'm making some sense. So anyhow, right here again, the life cycle. This cat is ingesting a mice, and it goes to the intestine of the cat. In the intestine of the cat, and only cat, sexual reproduction occurs, microgametes and macrogametes come together, fertilization occurs in intestine of cat, and cat releases the oocyst in the environment. Farm animals can come across it, and it affects the fetus in the womb. And then of course, mice become infected with it, birds can become infected with it, cat eat them, and the cycle goes on and on and on and on and on. No cats, domestic cats, who will eat human, of course, but they eat mice and rats. Okay. So, transmission, there are 3 possible transmission. One of them is congenital. What does that mean? From mother to fetus. That's what congenital means. The other one, carnivorism, we eat meat. Yes, there are a few studies that shows that we human will most likely become infected with pork, eating pork. Not cat feces, not any other methods, but it looks like we human, a few studies done, that we become infected by eating pork. And of course, that pork gotta be raw, not cooked. We'll talk about that temperature. And of course, fecal oral. You go gardening, you gotta wear a mask. Okay, if you're a pregnant woman, highly recommended when you go gardening, wear a mask. Or if you have a cat inside of the house, you're a pregnant woman, that cat has been in the house for so many years, and just last year you got married, and now you're pregnant, right? And the cat has been with you for the last 18, 19 years, there's no way the cat gotta go. Change the litter box less than 24 hours during pregnancy. Okay, these are the precautions. When you go out gardening, wear a mask, because you don't know who has been in your garden. A stray cat, a neighbor's cat, and you don't know what they have ate. Okay, so I hope I'm making sense. Here is a picture of a newborn with a hydrocephalic brain. The brain is full of water, of course. After this picture was taken, the baby died. This fetus died, but anyhow, that is possible, you know, that the babies are either mentally retarded, or they are, please write it down, or they are, they will die with the hydrocephalic. 30% of women of childbearing age, this is not true anymore, but let's assume, look at my question, answer my question. I give you a question like this during quiz or exam. 30% of women of childbearing age in the United States have antibodies against Toxoplasma gondii. So, do I have to worry about that 30% women or no? Give them recommendations or no? Based on what you learned, based on what we discussed so far. What? Huh? No, I don't have to worry about them. The other 70% of women who do not have Toxoplasma gondii, I should be concerned with them, right? I should give them a list of do's and don'ts, right? Am I making some sense? Based on what you learned. If you had, based on this, if you had Toxoplasma gondii 2 years ago or last year, okay, and now you want to become pregnant, there's nothing that I can tell you to worry about. Your baby's going to be healthy, normal. You're going to be fine. But if you do not have Toxoplasma gondii, and now you're planning to become pregnant, then I'll have to give you a list. There are 2 countries in the world. I don't know if they changed their policies or not. There are 2 countries in the world, before they give you a marriage certificate, you have to go submit blood tests. And that was in California. When I moved to California in '95, that was the case. I don't know what it's like now. But for example, in Nevada, you go drive-through, right? You go through drive-through and they give you marriage certificate, right? Yeah, have you guys done that? Well, if you want to get married immediately, go to Nevada. You go through drive-through, they give you a marriage certificate, you're done. In California nowadays, it takes a little bit longer, I guess. I'm not sure what is the system in California. But before, in old days in California, you had to submit blood, and they would check your blood. Among these 2 countries that I'm saying, and of course in California, they didn't check you for Toxoplasma gondii, but these 2 countries, France and Austria, not Australia, Austria, the country Austria in Europe and France. These 2 countries, you want to get a marriage certificate, you go give blood and they check you for a whole bunch of diseases. And one of the diseases they check for you for is Toxoplasma gondii. So if a woman is negative for Toxoplasma gondii, they give them a list. If the woman is positive for Toxoplasma gondii, then they say, okay, go have fun. I want to make you some sense a little bit. So it is those women who do not have it. Okay? And then what happens during pregnancy, during pregnancy, if it's known a woman is pregnant and then she has a flu-like symptoms, and then she's brave enough, goes to the doctor, hey, check me for Toxoplasma gondii. They check her for Toxoplasma gondii, and before pregnancy, they checked her for Toxoplasma gondii, she was negative. During pregnancy, she catches a cold, and she goes to the doctor, check me for Toxoplasma gondii. I want to make it some sense, take my blood, and they find the antibodies, and I'll show you some slides and go over that. And they say, you became infected with Toxoplasma gondii, the drug the doctor usually give them, the drug of choice is clindamycin. It's an antibiotic, but it works on Toxoplasma gondii. It will slow them down. It will not kill them. It will not kill them, but it slows their multiplication. Okay? So, drug of choice is clindamycin. I gave you the scenario, right? A woman before pregnancy, she knows she does not have the Toxoplasma gondii. During pregnancy, when I moved to California and City College of San Francisco, one of my colleagues came to me and said, Amir, this woman has Toxoplasma gondii. I said, how does she know? How does she know she has? She said, well, she tested. I said, did she test it before? I said, no, they didn't test her before pregnancy. It would make sense. But anyhow, the doctor didn't take any risk, and since her tests came out positive for Toxoplasma gondii, the doctor didn't take any risk, and the doctor put her on clindamycin. That was a drug of choice. And that was just I moved to California. One of my colleagues was discussing one of her friends' case with me. Anyhow, so from mother, what happens of transplacental transmission, 45% of toxoplasmosis. Of that 45% of toxoplasmosis, 60% are subclinical, 9% will die, 30% will get hydrocephalus or mental retardation. So as I said, about 50-50. You don't know, you don't know your baby's going to be normal. That's 50%. You don't know your baby's going to be one of these categories. So they give you the drug. They give you the clindamycin and you take it. Another thing I forgot to mention so far, what happens with Toxoplasma gondii? In some cases, Toxoplasma gondii went to the eye and made the person blind. Okay? That's another reason I did not give it to the veterinary students to drink it during Christmas break. Okay? Again, I'm making it up a little bit story. I'm making up some stories. So it will goes in there. So they create chorioretinitis. Chorioretinitis is the name of the disease Toxoplasma gondii caused. No cases of it have been reported in the United States, but usually chorioretinitis occurs south of the border in South America and Central America. And a few cases have been reported there. It's rare, very rare, but it happens. It's due to Toxoplasma gondii. They do move to the brain. They go to the brain, normal, but the eye is red. They go all over the body. They go to the muscles. They go everywhere. Here's a list of the organisms that can cause in AIDS patient, a few of them. If you look at it, Toxoplasma gondii is one of them. Do not worry about that slide too much. It talks about HIV in a little bit. Toxoplasma gondii prevention, there is no vaccine. I don't know any vaccine for any eukaryotic cell. We have vaccine for some viruses. We have a vaccine for some bacteria. We do not have any 100% efficient vaccine for any eukaryote. You all know what I mean by eukaryote. Plasmodium is the one they're working very hard to come up with a vaccine, but still, we do not have one for Plasmodium. But anyhow, no vaccine. All meat should be cooked at 70 Celsius. 70 Celsius translates to 158 Fahrenheit, which is not much. But remember, a lot of you who like to eat meat, steak or pork chops that is not cooked well, in the outside of it could be 70 degrees, but right in the middle of the meat is not cooked 70. Okay? So that is something, a lot of times they call about cross-contamination. You go home and you cut the knife, with your knife, you cut the meat, and then with the same knife, without washing it, rinsing it, you cut your lettuce. And guess what? Those bradyzoids were transferred from meat without washing the knife to the lettuce. Do you cook, boil lettuce? No. You just eat it. You wash it, rinse it, possibly does not go away, but you eat the lettuce. That has been reported several times. They call it cross-contamination, or in the kitchens in restaurants. The person who cut the meat in the restaurant, usually same knife, lettuce, so on and so on. Okay, all meat should be cooked. Goat milk, not cow's milk. Goat milk. Goat's milk should be boiled and pasteurized because it's been reported in there. For example, this parasite, this Toxoplasma gondii, is not transmitted through human semen, but it's been reported in the semen of camels. So every species is different. This is not a sexually transmitted parasite. Not in human, but in camel, yes. Okay, so anyhow. Pork is the main cause of infection in the United States. It seems like it. Okay, pregnant women should be careful. 80% of Parisians, people who live in Paris, 80% of them have Toxoplasma gondii antibodies. And they do not all have cats in Paris. It's not all Parisians have cat. It is pork they're referring it to. They get them, most of them. I don't know, out of that 80%, how many percent are getting it from pork. And there are several studies that support that in the United States and, of course, outside of the United States. Drug of choice, I already talked about this, pyrimethamine, but yes, eliminate, do not, all of these drugs do not eliminate Toxoplasma gondii. They do not eliminate. Okay, this was one study done in Graz, Austria, the country that I said they have the law. What happened once a pregnant woman was diagnosed with toxoplasmosis and received chemotherapy, we already talked about that, for the disease, transmission of disease to the fetus was dropped to 0 in 1,000 births. Okay, so it had an effect, and they used it in, again, these things, Toxoplasma gondii is kind of popular in France and Austria. That's why they test them. And then in this case, they done study and it dropped, so no women had it. Okay, do not worry about that slide either. This is the last thing, yeah. Okay, this is the last thing I want to talk to you about, how do they detect this. There are different tests to detect Toxoplasma gondii. There are different ones, but this is the one that I used in Tennessee to look at the pigs in the farms and how many pigs have them and give an idea to the public in just in the state of Tennessee how many pigs have Toxoplasma gondii. So what happened, the top one is my blood right here. They took my blood every once in a while. I went and they took my blood since they knew I do not have it. I don't know now I have it, but during those 3 years that I was in the lab, in parasitology lab, in veterinary college, in University of Tennessee, those 3 years, I did not come across it, even though I was working with live Toxoplasma gondii. So I did not have it. And how did I know? I will tell you. That's me, the top row. The bottom row is my advisor, the one who was advising me what to do, what not to do for my PhD. And she had it. She had Toxoplasma gondii, and she had a nice little daughter. She went to Harvard, and she got PhD, healthy, normal, but she had Toxoplasma gondii before she became pregnant. I hope I'm making some sense. And she had a nice, beautiful daughter, went to Harvard, did everything, and now she's back in Tennessee, University of Tennessee. She's teaching there, her daughter. I'm talking about my advisor. So my advisor in Tennessee had Toxoplasma gondii. That person did not have it. That person had it. This person had it. This person had it. This person had it. This person had it. Of course, when I say these persons, these are not people. These are animals they brought to the lab. They gave us their serum, and then we test them. So let's talk about this. This one, what you're seeing up here, since I did not have the antibody for Toxoplasma gondii, and we used dead Toxoplasma gondii. We had live organisms to infect mice with, which I've done. And then we had the dead ones. We bought them from France, and then we did a few things to it. And then we took my serum and put it in the well, and then we put the dead Toxoplasma gondii in here, and they did not react. So what you're seeing on the bottom of these wells, each one of these is a well. You're seeing dead Toxoplasma gondii. right here. Am I making some sense? My advisor, she had antibody, and she will have it for the rest of her life, right? Okay? So she had antibody right here. They did interact with those dead. They went and attached the dead Toxoplasma gondii. Am I making some sense? And that's why you're seeing it like that. And then after you dilute it, I'm not going to go to titration and all that. Of course, you won't see anymore. So anybody who, or any animal we saw in the lab like this, of course that animal is negative. That animal is positive. That animal or a human, these are all positive. I hope I'm making some sense. Again, I'm not giving you the whole entire picture, but just to tell you how we detect, we know a person has it or not. And of course, when you do serology, you take somebody's serum and run it for whatever test. It is recommended to do it twice, because serology is kind of magic. You're not looking at the organisms. If you, God forbid, you sometime you suspect you have HIV or any other disease, you go submit your blood once and they say you're positive, don't, please don't. Go do it again after a few days, a few weeks, a month. And then if the second time say yes, you're positive, then maybe you should then take all the precautions for any other disease, not just that. Or same as, let's say, Toxoplasma gondii. You say, before pregnancy, you want to test yourself. Do I have Toxoplasma or not? Okay. If you're negative, do it a few months later, see what happens. If you're negative, then you're negative. So that's what they recommend in serology. Okay, that's all I have to say. Now let's entertain a few questions. Fabian, you had a question. You walked out